cover for small athletic mammal because we need to focus on rabbit and rodents because this species is commonly presented in our practice. And in fact, a majority of exotic species involve rodents, especially rabbits. This is such a brief about the biological parameters for rodents, selected rodents such as rabbit, hamster, and guinea pigs. And in fact, this is the three most common species of rodents that commonly presented, or people like to keep as pets: rabbit, hamster, and guinea pigs. This one you can memorize later on. But just to highlight that they have a different lifespan. For example, rabbit 6 to 10 years, and still less than 3 years, average around 2 years, and guinea pig around 3 to 8 years. It's very important to know this lifespan because it has some problem related to the age. And these are some example of some of the small mammals, not rodents, some small mammals that also commonly presented in our practice, which are hedgehogs and sugar glider. All right, before proceed with any direct to the common problems or diseases, we need to know some important physical examination. First, before we further with any other clinical approach, we need to look for what we call general inspection or demeanor. We look at the general of the animal. As you're aware, rabbits are considered as prey species. So when they are prey species, they are predisposed to high stress. So they are really why you need to handle them with gentle. Okay, don't rush. Okay, observe the rabbit in its current surrounding before being disturbed. If they are presented when they are in the cage, let them give some time before you handle them, before you take out from the cage, because they are still in stress of transportation, stress coming to a new place, you know, hearing some noise, uh, hearing of other animals sound, something like that. So we have to make them calm, okay, before you handle them. So smell operated species. That's why we separate our unit with other unit. Suppose last time we combine small animals, exotic, in the same apa tu, front office, but we realized that these are prey species. When the animal are in the same room while waiting before being inspected, so cat sound, dog sound, people noise, make them very uncomfortable, so make them stress. So that's why we separate them. Now we have uh, our own unit of exotic. These are some of the example of perhaps behavior that you may observe, like normal expiratory position, normal relaxed position or alert position, or could be also due to overheating. They stretch their body as much as possible to 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 make the heat loss uh, better. And then ears forward indicating anxiety owing to pain, ocular pain, and also could be due to blindness. So when they are blind, perhaps they try to maximize their sound by the hearing sound. Hunch position due to abdominal pain. Okay, this is one of the common sign when they are in pain, especially abdominal pain. They are in hunch position. Okay, all right. TPR. First, of course, before we handle, the one thing that you can observe before you touch them is respiratory rate lah. But the respiratory rate, you have to look at the movement of the abdomen or diaphragm. You cannot look by looking at the movement of the nest. It's common kan, kalau you tengok rabbit, dia punya nest keep moving kan. You cannot count from that. That one tak boleh. You have to count from the movement of the abdomen or diaphragm. Heart rate, well, we normally use stethoscope auscultation at the heart side, heart position, or you can place your finger at lower left side of the chest where the position are lah. Okay, you can feel by your own apa tu, finger. Just press the left side of the chest. You can feel the beat. Body temperature, using the thermometer. Try to choose a thermometer with a small apa tu probe kan. Thermometer dia ada different probe kan, ada bigger probe, ada yang thinner probe. So I like to use the thinner or small probe. Okay, less traumatizing. Ensure the thermometer is in the correct location and far enough. Okay, that's why you have to make sure where to put in, because some students might wrongly insert the probe not into the rectum. Okay, gut movement. Normally we look because rabbit commonly to have a gut stasis, what we call gut stasis, or hypomotility of the gut movement. So gut movement, we need to observe the gut movement, the abdominal area. Okay, all right. Give a particular attention at this right side of abdomen. You can observe both sides, left or right, but the best position is when the animal in sitting or ventral recumbency like this. Ventral recumbency like this. They are relaxed. Okay. You look a wave pattern. Okay. This is the movement of the respiratory, but you see the movement again. They have a movement wave. Okay. Okay, there's a wave. This is the respiratory rate, but this you see the movement. Okay, you see the wave. You see the wave. Normally, this wave, at least it must be 1 cycle per minute. At least 1 cycle per minute to show the animal having a normal gut motility. If less than 1 minute, you unable to count, so possibly animal having a gut motility, a gut stasis. Auscultation, like in other animal, for example, like in ruminants, normally you do a gut auscultation kan, dekat left paralumbar fossa. You auscultate and you hear the what we call a flushing sound. That's also indicating of gut motility kan, rumen movement, rumen motility. So same thing in ruminant pun, in 1 minute should be 1 cycle, okay, for a normal one. So in rabbit, yes, you still can do auscultation, but very challenging, quite hardly to hear the sound of flushing sound, because there's a lot of sound disturbances like the rapid respiration, that's all can to disturb your hearing of this flushing sound. All right, gender or sex determination. It's easy to make a mistake in sexing bunnies of less than 4 months because of testicle has not descended. Okay, less than 4 months, normally for male, testicle has not descended, still in the abdominal cavity. So we have to depend on the genital organ inspection. Okay, for doe or female, okay, we need to protrude the genital organ, and you can see the tip of the vagina should be pointed shape and oval shape. Okay, while for the male, it should be the tip of the penis should be circular or rounded tip, rounded oval. That first characteristic. Second characteristic, Some people they use the distance between the anus and the genital organ. Okay, for the female should be a short distance, while for a male should be a wide distance. But this is very subjective lah. Kan kalau you ada satu, could be difficult to differentiate lah. So normally if you have a pair or a comparative, you have more than one, perhaps you can compare lah. Okay. But normally I use only this, the first characteristic lah, the tip of the genital organ. Okay. So number one, because of animals still bunny, that's why you cannot, it's hard to differentiate the sex because the testis still in the abdominal cavity. Second could be due to animal already castrated, the male already castrated. Okay, some people they get their pet from the pet shop, could be already castrated, or they get from their friends or their, I don't know, rescue. Perhaps they get already animal already castrated, so you cannot see the testicle. So that's why you need to check this genital organ. Third could be due to apa tu kita panggil, cryptorchid. It's a clinical condition what we call cryptorchid, meaning that the testicle unable to descend. Okay. So at this stage, I hope you already know which one male, which one female. Okay. So 5 should be rounded, should be male. Okay. Oval shape and the distance. So from here, perhaps you can appreciate more about the distance, but you just look at the tip of the genital organ. Rounded shape should be male, oval shape should be female. So far, you can still follow, eh?
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
Yes, doctor.
Okay, thank you. Right. So for adult rabbit, it's not a big deal lah. Okay. Normally we just look for presence of the testis lah kalau female, male. Okay. Kalau female, you tengok tadi lah, the tip of the genital organ tadi, oval shape. Tapi kalau dia tak, not having a problem of undescended testicle, not a cryptorchid, then you just look for testis lah. Okay. Right. Body condition score is more or less similar like other species lah. Okay. In this in rabbit we use 1 to 5 scale. Okay, 1 to 5 scale. Perhaps maybe there are other scaling system, but here we prefer to use 5-point score, 1 to 5. Okay, as you're aware, 1 is underweight, 3 is ideal, okay, and 5 is overweight or obese. Okay, normally we look at these 4 area lah. We look at the head. Okay, normally thinner animal will have a thinner face lah. Okay, slanted face. And then we look at the chest, you know, we look at the muscle that covering the backbone as well as muscle that covering the pelvic area. Okay, in rabbit you need, it's a must to palpate rather than just by looking grossly. You need to palpate because some of them having a very thick skin, very thick fur, so that's why you need to palpate them. Sometimes if you look at the fur or skin, maybe you might say that the animal having a good body condition, but in reality not. You need to palpate. Now then you can feel how thin the bone, whether you can feel clearly feel the bone. Hydration status more or less similar in other animals. So normally we look at these 3 most common things lah. Skin elasticity, mucous membrane, and eyes. Okay. The more delayed skin tinting, meaning that animal having a dehydration. Okay. Membrane get dry, whether dry or wet. eyes, look at the level of how sunken the eye. Okay. Oral cavity check. Normally we do at last because rabbit, you have to bear in mind, rabbit don't like people handle their head, especially their mouth and also their legs. These are two things, two areas that they really don't like. Okay, oral and legs. So that's why if you want to do a general checkup, oral cavity checkup would be the last lah. Okay, and it must have some aid of tools. You cannot like cats and dog just open the mouth and you can observe that. In rabbit, it doesn't work. You need to have some aid of some instruments lah. For example, like mouth gag, uh, speculum, otoscope. Okay, otoscope, or you have a speculum like this, and then you have some mouth gag, cheek dilator to aid you to widen the mouth because rodent having a very narrow oral cavity, very narrow. Okay, um, that's why last week on the anesthesia kan, I said that do uh, we cannot do a good intubation, a normal intubation in rabbit because of they are having a very small and narrow oral cavity. All right. For a clinical procedure, of course, blood collection is one of the most common things lah to do. So in rabbit, we can get from any other visible vein lah. Okay, like in small animal, it's common to take from jugular and cephalic kan. In fact, still in rabbit also we can use jugular, but well, uh, I would say a little bit hard lah. As compared to small animal. Okay. Here normally we use the ear vein, or we call marginal ear vein lah, to get a blood. If just a small blood, yes, you can get from the marginal ear vein. Okay. This side, you can get, you can get a lot of blood from here, but it's slow, quite slower lah compared to other big vessel. If you want to take blood with a good flow, maybe you can try saphenous. No, like here normally we practice saphenous, lateral saphenous. Okay, jugular, yes. Again, it can be done, but you need a proper restraint lah. You need a proper restraint, especially it's good if to do under sedation lah. Okay. Okay, here the video showing that how to get blood from marginal ear venipuncture. Okay, you can get, as I mentioned, you can get enough blood to do your hematology, your serum biochemistry, but you see it's slow. Withdraw it very gentle and slow, and it takes some time because the ear vein of the ear is very fragile, very small, and easily collapse. If you do a strong suction, you can collapse of the vessel. Okay. Again, you see, you can get from, I think this one around 1 mil, 2 mils. You can get the blood 1 mil, 2 mils. It's not an issue. Everything is slow lah. Okay. If you want to take in a good fast withdrawal, you can take from lateral saphenous lah. Okay, lateral saphenous. You see how fast we can get the blood. Lateral or medial saphenous lah. Okay, but the thing is that you see the animal, actually these videos are actually taken from animal under sedation, so there's no struggling here. But in reality, we do without sedation, it's quite challenging. Animal keep kicking, moving. Yeah? So we need a proper, a strong, a proper restraint. Yeah, like this one, it's just animal, just relax. And sedation. It's easy for the handler to take a blood. Okay, for the IV catheterization, to put your IV catheter in rabbit normally, it's common to put in at the ear, in the marginal ear vein. Okay, uh, less less likely to put the vein into the saphenous or cephalic. Okay, this is much comfortable to the handler and also comfortable to the animal. Okay, we use the marginal ear vein. We use the smallest IV catheter, which is the yellow one. I don't remember the gauge, but we call a pediatric catheter lah. Okay, so you still can raise the vein, but the vein is quite small. You see, like in this video, once you inserted the catheter, we don't aspirate to see whether the blood already go in or not, because we just make it the blood to flow naturally. We don't do a suction to aspirate to see whether we are in or not, because if you try to aspirate, the vessel might collapse. Might collapse. Okay. Okay, for how to secure this IV catheter at the ear. So first, you can directly put your what we call a tape, your tape, or to make sure, since first it's not easy to put in this IV catheter. So once you are already in, you want to make sure that the IV don't migrate. Okay, so to make sure that the IV line, IV catheter do not migrate, so first we can put the tape and to double secure it. Some people they like to use, in our practice, sorry, even in our practice, so in our practice, put a medium strong of glue, like Uhu, the yellow one, the Uhu glue, to stick the, what we call this, the catheter here to the skin of the ear pinna. So make sure it double stick, stick, because we don't want the IV to migrate, because we know that we only have two chances lah, one on the left ear and one on the right ear. Okay, so that's why we have to make sure double secure lah. IO, intraosseous, also one of the common option. Normally if you deal with smaller rabbit, less than 1 kilo, or even smaller, or even in other rodents, for example, guinea pigs, kan. So when the IV unaccessible, the ear pinna small, or the marginal ear vein small, so definitely we cannot put IV. Or the animal are in a critically ill. When they are critically ill, when they are dehydrated, hypotension, so the blood vessel unable to raise, so we cannot raise the vein. Smaller animal, or even obese animal, kan, obese lagi lah, obese tak boleh take, you are unable to clearly see the vessel, or severe burn animal. So all these condition, it might difficult to put in your IV. So the other option is to put IO, intraosseous, directly into the bone. Okay. So the principle is you can choose any bones, but in this case, normally in rabbit, normally or in rodent, normally we use these three sites lah. We use humerus, femur, as well as tibia, because these are the big long bones lah. Okay. So IO catheter should occupy 40 to 50% of marrow cavity. So is how we choose the size of the catheter or needles lah. And we use hypodermic or spinal needle. And fluid administration is accomplished via bolus infusion through a syringe. So normally we in this site normally we infuse as a bolus, not as a drip lah, as a bolus. But still you calculated for a requirement for a 24 hours or 12 hours, depends on how long you want to give. But you give in a bolus lah. For example, 1 hour you give some amount, and then another after 1 hour you give some amount until you reach the required dose for 12 hours or 24 hours. Okay, this is the procedure. You can do animal, whether the animal under sedation or without sedation lah. Okay, so the place the catheterization site should be clipped and plugged and aseptically prepared. Okay, this must be done under aseptic protocol. Local infusion of 1% lidocaine, because this is a painful procedure, because you're going to drill. I mean, you're trying to drill your needle into the bone. Okay, it's quite painful. The needle is advanced to the skin and proximal tibia, depends on site lah. If you want to use tibia, femur, or humeral crest, while gently rotating the needle, taking care to keep the needle straight. So you just rotate the needle and push, okay, until you are into the bone. So the catheter can be tested for patency by injecting a small amount of saline solution and see whether there's no leaking at the subcut area. This is how you test lah. Number one, patency of the infusion. Then you look at the surrounding tissue of the subcut, whether the fluid masuk ke tak masuk. And of course, you want to confirm, you need to do X-ray lah. You need to do an X-ray. I don't have a video on the rabbit, but this is example of IO in kitten, which is a similar that we practice. You can do in small rodent like guinea pigs, hamster, hedgehog, or even small rabbits. So again, you have to local block. I think animal they use femoral crest, I guess. Femoral crest. Okay. So try to locate the femoral crest. So they choose this is 20. This is brown, I think. 26 or 27, something like that. 26 or 27, I can't remember. But this is, I think it's a brown color coat. Okay. So this animal not under sedation, but they already put the IO. Okay. So this one, I think they use a tibial crest. So perhaps for a small mammal, small rodent, it's not so difficult because they have still having a light and thin bone. So not so difficult. Okay. So again, as I said, if you are in to test, whether the fluid in or not, you need to test for patency. Okay. Normally, if you aspirate, you won't see anything lah. You don't expect to get some blood. Okay. Okay. Because the marrow is not. It has a blood, but not fully of blood, can. So don't expect to aspirate blood much, but as long as your pattern is there, okay, and there's no leaking surrounding the tissue, then should be okay. All right, subcut in rabbit you can give any side line because you know rabbit having so many loose skin, okay. But here we practice normally on the dorsum lah, on the dorsum because dorsum have a large loose skin there, okay. I am you can choose either quadricep muscle at the thigh or longissimus dorsi along the muscle along the backbone, okay. Okay, these are some of the therapeutic drugs that can be used or normally used in rabbit. Okay, don't worry, don't memorize all this. I don't expect you to memorize, but just to highlight that normally in rodents, especially rabbits, well, in all other exotics, like including reptiles, Enro is one of the first line of antimicrobial. Okay, one is the most common that have been practiced. Number one, because of Endo uh, 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 is the only on label or approved drugs to be used in rabbits. And from the literature, from studies that saying that uh, Enro is much safer lah in exotic species as compared to other animals. Penicillin G is under the group. Okay, in rabbit here we don't use at all. We don't use at all. All better term, penicillin ke whatever lah. We don't use at all because it reported that these beta-lactam drugs are contraindicated in rodents, especially if you give oral. Okay, yes, you can give other parenteral subcut IM, but here we don't practice at all lah. We don't want to take any risk. Okay, why oral cannot be used for this drug because you know rabbit dia depends on the bacterial flora kan, dia high in gut fermenters. So penicillin ni it can cause a rapid acute disruption of the normal flora. That's why they avoid to use this penicillin or beta-lactam groups. Okay, now we move on to more specific problems in rabbits. There are so many problems, diseases, infectious, non-infectious, but I just select I just do a selection which are uh, more common and as well as more common reported in our practice here lah. Snuffles is one of the common presenting problem in rabbit. Especially is a serious disease in commercial or lab rabbits. Okay, when they are kept in large population. Oh, okay. So the etiology is Pasteurella maltosida, and predisposing factors that affect the expression of Pasteurella include opportunist pathogen, increased stress. I put here 4S. Okay, you have to remember 4S that can cause stress to your animal. Number one is sick, when the animal is sick or pain. Okay, sick and pain. Sound, smell, and sight. Okay, again, they are prey animals. They are uncomfortable sound that have never heard before. Okay, smell of predators or smell of people that are not common to them, not familiar with them, and apa tadi? Sight kan, sight, smell, sound, bunyi-bunyi bising, bunyi-bunyi all the predators ke, and sick lah. So all these 4S can cause stress and can lead to the flare up of this the agent, because Pasteurella is part of the normal flora at the nest, especially at the nest and mouth. Poor husbandry, increased interaction, newly acquired or close proximity, as I mentioned, this problem commonly related to commercial or animal kept in many animal in one cage. And young commonly happen in young rabbit, because young rabbits ni their immunity still low, it can cause acute infection. Okay, as I mentioned, Pasteurella is part of the normal flora. So whenever disruption of the immunity can cause leading to the this infection. Okay, and this infection can go to any other part of the body. It's not just respiratory. It's not just upper or lower respiratory infection. It also can cause skin infection as well as systemic infection. So whenever they go to the body, you can expect what are the clinical signs lah. Okay, so they can cause an abscess. At the end, they can cause an abscess to the related body that affected. Okay, the classical sign, of course lah, the respiratory signs lah, including sneezing, coughing, and snuffling sound. Okay, difficulty in breathing when they have a more severe outcome, exudate on forepaws, conjunctiva, redden, swollen. Okay. Torticollis, head tilt may be seen as a result of middle of or inner ear infection. As I mentioned, it can migrate to other part of the body. Depends lah. Kalau pergi ear, it can cause ear infection. You can see animal having a head tilt. Skin, it can cause subcutaneous abscess. Kalau pergi ke in other organs lah, including reproductive organs. Okay, diagnosis antemortem. Normally we do an X-ray to look at the heart, lungs. We do a lung radiograph, and of course for definitive diagnosis, you need to do a culture from a nasal or deep swab of the nasal to isolate this Pasteurella. So treatment again, you can use any kind of antibiotic, okay, but these are the three that recommended. Of course, the first one too, as I mentioned earlier, also it's not recommended, but it has been reported that this penicillin also can resolve the pasteurellosis. But again, that's why you cannot use oral lah. Okay, you can choose either IM or subcut. Okay. Enterotoxemia due to Clostridium infection. Again, Clostridium also is part of the normal flora of the GIT, especially at the colon. So this disease commonly happen in weanling rabbits. So this disease normally associated with, again, with stress condition. For example, stress during weaning, kan, where masa tu kan ada changes in feeding, kan, tukar from milk to hard food. So this is a very stress period. Okay, all this can lead to flare up from the normal flora become an opportunistic infection. It causes rapid multiplication of this Clostridium. So one of the common signs is diarrhea lah. Okay, diarrhea, profuse watery diarrhea. Sometimes greenish to terry black brown, and sometimes also you can see blood in the feces. Diagnosis, kalau antemortem, same thing. You look at the clinical sign as well as try to isolate the bacteria lah from the fecal material. Kalau postmortem, normally we directly observe the cecum lah for the evidence of colitis. Right, treatment for acute cases normally not successful, because acute normally, acute kan, acute normally cause death, so nothing much you can do. But even the animal survive from this disease, there's a you can do a treatment, but it's just a supportive treatment lah, like IV fluid, corticosteroid as well as bacterial lah. Okay. So what about the prevention? Yes, there are available commercial vaccine for this Clostridium, but only available, only produced and licensed in the USA and China. So in Malaysia, this vaccine belum license. In fact, belum ada yang apply to bring in this vaccine. Okay. Mastitis is similar to mastitis in other species. It affects normally lactating does lah. And the most common bacteria involve Staphylococcus aureus. Again, Pasteurella also can cause mastitis as well as Streptococcus. Mastitis, we have a typical sign of mastitis like inflammation kan, swollen, firm and hot. Okay. And other clinical signs involve fever, loss of appetite, illness, and death among the pups. So the pup, if you have evidence that the pup already, milking ataupun nursing from this affected mother, so you need to dispose this pup because this pup could be especially for farming rabbit kan. Normally they put in a group, so sometimes the pups tu dia akan pergi apa tu minum susu from other mother kan, so dia akan bawa dekat dia punya oral tu, so they will infect to other non infected mother nanti. That's why we advise to dispose these pups lah, affected pups. And also you give antimicrobial lah. Alright, mycotic disease, ringworm is one of the most common skin infection in rabbit, normally caused by Trichophyton, Mentagrophytes, and the clinical sign involves circular, crusty, erythematous, alopecic areas that are pruritic. So this fungal is pruritic, itchy, and you can find these lesions at the head, normally at the head, paws, feet, and other part of the body. So why this area are commonly affected? Because it's related to their dia punya behavior, dia punya apa? Grooming behavior. Kan? Dia suka main telinga dia suka kan kaki dia kan tangan apa? The front leg tu dia akan touch the nose. So all this can get all this the spread of the infection due to their grooming behavior. Okay, diagnosis of ringworm ni, it can be we can do what we call in-house test. So without you send a sample for culture. Of course, for a fungal, the definitive or the final, the gold standard actually culture lah, fungal culture. But normally, if you practice in small animal clinic, we don't have, or sometimes we don't do this. We send the sample to the lab. So, but we can do our in-house test. Okay, just by using a 10 to 20% potassium hydroxide, and you must have a microscope lah. Okay, you must have a microscope. Okay, the aim of this test is to look for the hyphae. Hyphae is dia punya spore kan, fungal spore. It look like this under the microscope. It's like what we call a branch of highway. Okay. So the method very simple. What you need to do is to get the screen scrape of the sample on the slide, glass slide, and you put the drop of this 10 to 20% KOH, around 2-3 drops, something like that. Okay, all right. Then you put the cover slip. You can just wait for 30 minutes, something like that. Okay, the function of KOH is to break off, to lyse all the unnecessary tissue, right? So you can wait for 30 minutes, but you can fasten the thing is by flaming downside of the slide. So it will fasten the breakup of the tissue so that you can get a faster result of to see the hyphae. Okay. So again, if you don't have the flame, you just wait for 30 minutes, or you want to make it shorter, it can short your time 15-20 minutes by flaming underneath the slide. Okay. Then just wipe off the black. Then you directly see under your light microscope lah. Okay. So again, your aim is to see the hyphae, the branch of hyphae that I mentioned earlier. Okay, you need to adjust, until you can see the hyphae. You can see this is the hyphae, right? So this is very simple method. Okay, at least at the level, as a clinician, we don't really care about what are the species of fungus. The thing is, we want to know whether this is fungus or not, because we want to start immediately with our treatment, kan? So that's why this is very useful techniques lah. Okay. Okay, so once confirmed the ringworm, again, since this is one of the zoonotic disease, so make sure you have a proper attire lah. At least you wear a glove and use other protective clothing lah to handle. Normally, it is best to practice both topical and systemic treatments. Okay. This is from our experience also lah. If you use topical alone, it doesn't, or it's delay healing. I mean, delay the progress lah. Okay. If you combine these two, cream pun you sapu, and then the systemic medication pun you bagi, so that it will improve. It will make the healing faster. Okay. And the environment. Okay, the environment you clean lah carefully, vacuum ke, boiling of dia punya materials, dia punya towels, and cleaning of surfaces with 1 to 10 bleach water ataupun sodium apa? I can't remember. Sodium hydroxide kan bleach kan. So you can use all this to kill all the germs lah, all the fungal, including the spore. Ear mite, ear canker. This is one of the most common presenting clinical signs lah in our hospital. Very common in rabbit, and normally caused by Soroptes funiculi. Okay. So this Soroptes inhabit the auditory canal, pinna, and spread to perineal and ventral abdomen. It causes scaling and crusting lesion, and also pruritic, similar like fungal TB. So it's very itchy. Okay, very itchy, and this is cause uncomfortable to animal. when they are feel uncomfortable, it will affect many things lah. It will affect dia punya appetite, and then eventually can cause gut problem and so on. Okay. So diagnosis very simple. You just take the apa tu, the again similar like macam kita buat fungal tadi, skin scrape, take all the dirts, take all the crusty lesions, put on the slide, and then put some what we call immersion oil. Okay, put some immersion oil. So the function of this immersion oil is just to immobilize this apa tu, these mites. You can use any other type of oil actually, as long as the clear oil lah. Don't use cooking oil. Cooking oil kan warna coklat, brown kan. Boleh lah, tapi you punya nanti you punya view under the microscope tu nampak, yalah colour lah kan, warna brown kan. At least kalau you use a clearless ataupun you use like mineral oil ataupun any other emulsion macam kita pakai here, normally we use glycerol lah. It's a clear oil kan. So that you can see clearly the worm, the mites as well as dia punya eggs or ova. So treatment for the crusty lesion, you have two options lah. Number one, whether you just leave it, don't remove the lesion, or if you want to remove the lesion, the crusty lesion, yes, you can do, but you need to soften first the crusty material by using a mineral oil or any kind of oil lah. The advantage of using oil ni pun satu, it also can to kill, but also can inhibit the what we call the overgrown of this mites, because dia akan immobilize. Even for traditional treatment pun, some people use mineral oil to treat mites because it will minimize or immobilize the movement of this or some say it can drown the mites lah. Okay, so kalau you nak remove the crusty material, you need to soften with this oil and then you remove gently lah. Okay, it's better to do under sedation lah. Okay, rabbit ni dia ni sikit lah distress kalau you make it under any procedure without sedation, it might lead to stress at the end lah. Okay, another treatment is you use acaricides. Like here is a widely used lah. We widely use of ivermectin lah. Ivermectin subcut injection. We use at the dosage 0.4 mg per kg every 2 weeks for 3 times. Okay, for 2 weeks. I mentioned here single or biweekly. So mean that depends on the severity. Kalau very severe, yes. But in your practice, we give a single injection subcut every 1 or 2 weeks for 3 times. Okay, why 1 week? Why 2 weeks? 1 week again, it depends on severity. If the lesion quite severe, then we make it more frequent lah. I mean more shorter, every 1 week, but for 3 times. Tapi kalau it just light lesions, so or just for a prophylactic treatment, then we go for every 2 weeks. Make it more longer, every 2 weeks, but again for 3 times. Okay. Furmite, Pastivorax, okay, it's a furmite. Again, it's a zoonotic, normally seen in young and immunosuppressed, and it can cause hair loss, oily hair, dandruff, but this is not pruritic. This is just a fur. It's not directly to the skin, not the pinna, but it's more to the fur. Again, the same diagnosis. Take a sample from the hair or from the lesion, dandruff, and you look under the microscope. Put a visceral oil, mineral oil or glycerol, and then you look under the microscope and try search for these mites and their ova. Treatment the same as apa tu tadi? Ear canker tadi. The same we use ivermectin. Sarcoptic mange, or also known as skin mite. Okay, so kita ada tiga: skin mite, fur mite, sebelum tu kita ada ear mites. Okay, so this is sarcoptic is more toward the skin mites lah. So more burrowing to the skin. This is sporadic, and the lesions can be found at the face, nose, lips, external genitalia, pinna, neck, feet. Presented with yellow scaly crust. So more or less sama aja macam macam apa tu? Ear canker tadi. Malah pun lebih kurang sama je macam fungal tadi. It's not big different. Diagnosis are similar. They are mites, so diagnosis through a microscopic examination. Treatments, they are the same. Coccidiosis, I would say, is the common problems in commercial farm or farm rabbits lah. It related to the highly stressed period, as well as abundance overpopulation in the cage. Okay, high density, related to the high density, as well as stress, high stress period lah. There are 7 species of coccidia or Eimeria commonly infect rabbits, but only one that infect. We have intestinal, what we call intestinal coccidia, as well as we have liver coccidia. Only one liver coccidia, which is Eimeria stadiae. The rest infect the small intestine, large intestine, as well as cecum. Specific site lah. Okay. For example, kalau tengok Eimeria perforans, normally it infects only the duodenum. Okay. Kalau media, magna, irisodia, intestine, normally they infect more towards the jejunum and ileum. Okay. Kalau flavescent, more towards the apa tu? Colon. Okay. Again, this is actually coccidia is a part of the normal flora. Okay, they are asymptomatic carrier, so mean that most of the rabbit memang ada coccidia. Okay, so the infection happen when the oral injection lah, maksudnya from the fecal oral lah, and they are immune suppressed. So they affect the hosting cell, inhibit cell function of the GIT, cause hypertrophy, villi atrophy, epithelial ulcer, and eventually will lead to malabsorption of nutrients, electrolyte imbalance, anemia, hypoproteinemia, and dehydration. And then at the end, you can see all these clinical signs lah: reduced appetite, depression, abdominal pain, diarrhea, and so on. Okay, so I mentioned earlier, there are the intestinal coccidiosis and hepatic coccidiosis. Hepatic tu only one species sajalah. Yang intestinal dia ada yang the rest tadi tu. Ada 6 species tadi. So antemortem diagnosis, we can do fecal flotation, looking for this apa tu? Bagi apa? Usis Coccidia usis. Okay. Treatment, it can be treated using sulfonamide and trimethoprim, normally we use sulfa-based drug to treat coccidia in rabbit. Okay. All right. Encephalococinosis is it's a zoonotic disease. It's under the Macrosporidia. this is one of the most, I would say, one of the famous disease lah in rabbit. Okay, infection is by intake of spores by ingestion, inhalation, or through from the dam. So spores is shed in feces, mucus, and urine. So this is highly contagious because they can spread to the feces from their secretion as well as from the urine. Okay, and the spore can remain viable in the environment. Kalau that's why kita selalu dapat case bila the mother ataupun dia punya apa tu dia punya parent dia ada this disease, it's quite to difficult to control lah because the infection can spread to their kid, to their pups easily, either direct or indirect. Okay, because this spore can remain viable in the environment, especially at below than 22 degree for 4 weeks. So encephalotoxinosis has three main clinical signs or three main sites. Okay, one is neurological disease, one is ocular disease, and one is kidney disease. So common neurologic sign is normally kita akan dapat case first presented with head tilt lah. Head tilt, highlight paralysis, itu antara common lah. And then ocular disease presented with cataracts or uveitis. And kidney disease related to polyuria, polydipsia, and from the biochemistry, it shows elevation of kidney functions lah. Okay. So when the animal presented or complained with head tilt, so our differential normally either apa tu mice is or ear infection, and third always encephalitogenesis. Okay, so we have to check other side lah. We have to check dia punya ear, sorry, we have to check dia punya eye, tengok ada cataract ataupun uveitis lah. And then kita tanya history whether the animal having a polyuria, polydipsia, and we check for kidney function lah. Okay, this is the sign: head tilt, hind leg paralysis. You see hind leg paralysis. In fact, here we don't have, in Malaysia so far, we don't have a clear prevalence because nobody done any study on to see the prevalence of this encephalitoxin cuniculi punya ni. But one of my students last year, Hok Meng, he did perhaps what we call a preliminary study lah. We just screen from the apa tu farm animals lah in Selangor, but not many sample, around 40 something, 44 40 samples from 3 farms. One of the farm actually is a major farm in Selangor, which producing or supplying the meat, especially for sate kan. And we found one positive case lah in this farm. Okay, uveitis, cataracts, this is one of the lesion that normally we trying to look for lah. And then the polyuria, polydipsia, polyuria banyak urine, so at the end can cause itulah staining of urine at the ventral side of the body. We are having a problem in the diagnosis of this disease lah. Where the gold standard for E. cuniculi is only post-mortem histological examination with immunochemical staining for accurate identification. Like Hok Meng did, we did taking a sample from apa tu animal yang slaughtered kan. We took a sample brain, we took eyes, we took liver, kidney, and he found the lesion dekat brain, which is highly suggestive lah. Okay, highly suggestive. But we didn't do immunochemical staining lah. We did I can't remember what stain we used. Okay, Okay, but we found the spore of this encephalitoxin coniculi. Urine, we also can do, but here in our lab we don't have any facilities to diagnose this disease. Okay, for your information, we don't have a method. So meaning that if you want to send sample for E. caniculi, they are unable to do. But this is from the literature that what can be done lah. Okay, urine sample also can be used for a sample, and we have to use some staining method lah using a carbon fusion. Okay, PCR, yes, one of the available tools lah you boleh buat PCR. But against perhaps PCR ni we use for research purpose lah. It's not for diagnosis. So memang tak ada. Kalau you hantar pergi lab, memang lab cannot do this detection. Antibody detection. Yes, this is widely used, especially in other countries. They use this antibody detection. In fact, for Hopmeng last time, actually we plan to do this antibody study. We purchased this ELISA. We purchased this ELISA kit, but because of the masa tu baru the early stage of pandemic COVID, so all the production, all the shipping issues, we were having a problems. So the kit tu sampai lambat, so we have to change the FYP punya Hopmeng punya objective from doing this antibody detection to the postmortem punya study lah. So I have the kit, but I think the already expired, but still can be used lah. I mean, for research purpose, it still can be used. We just need a blood sample saja lah. Okay, treatment is aimed at reducing inflammation using anti-inflammatory drugs such as steroids and killing the parasites. Okay, it's a combination of treatment. Number one, of course, directly to the agent, we use a benzimidazole agent, either fenbendazole or albendazole at 20 mg per kg for 28 days. It must be a 4-week course, 28 days. You cannot skip. Must be 28 days. Terus and then you combine lah with other anti-inflammatory and antibiotic to prevent any secondary infection issues. So this benzimidazole also can be used for a prophylactic. Kan, for example, kalau you newly purchase animal, you don't know the health status of the animal, you can use this what we call a prophylactic antibiotic lah to prevent infection, because we never know whether the animal carry this agent in their, especially in their kidney. At the chronic stage, normally they reside in the kidney. Okay, they reside in the kidney. Okay, for the control and prevention, should isolate the suspected rabbit from the rest. Okay, as I mentioned, this disease is highly contagious from the urine, from the secretion, kan? So that's why you isolate them. Regular cleaning and disinfection of the rabbit's environment. Okay, regular cleaning. Tak kisahlah dengan air biasa pun boleh. Okay, with the boiling water pun boleh, or you can put a bleach or 70% ethanol. Kalau nak berkesan, much effective and cheaper, bleach lah. Bleach lebih convenient lah. Okay, kalau nak pakai 70% ethanol boleh, tapi yalah, benda ni commercial kan, mahal. So bleach is one of the most common you can use lah, disinfectant. As I mentioned earlier, prophylactic fenbendazole has been suggested for any rabbit that may have been exposed or prior to introduction. So it's no harm lah. It's better to prevent lah, so by giving this prophylactic fenbendazole or mebendazole. Viral disease, not much, but these are the two most common. One is myxomatosis. or pox virus. Okay, this the transmission is believed by direct or biting insects by mosquito or fleas. Okay, so transmission by direct or biting insects lah. The clinical sign includes swelling.
Sorry, doctor.
Yes.
We don't see the change of your slides, doctor.
Now.
Yes, doctor. Okay, thank you.
Now okay. Eh?
Yes, thank you, doctor.
Okay. Before this, okay. Encefalopathogen still okay?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, so viral lah, viral disease. Okay. This is not difficult to diagnose by clinical sign because pox lesion is easy because you can see from the skin lesion, lump and nodules lah may develop on the body. Again, same thing with this disease. We don't have any idea about the prevalence. Okay, but in our practice, we receive. I don't say apa tu many cases, but I've seen a few cases of clinical sign of this. So we can suspect that the pox virus also is well, it can happen in our rabbit lah, or rabbit in Malaysia. But the thing is, nobody knows the exact prevalence of this disease. So since it's a virus, actually there's no specific treatment. Only you can do a supportive care lah. Okay, supportive care. The vaccination, yes, it's available, but again, it's not practiced in Malaysia. Nobody has tak ada yang belum bawa lagi masuk Malaysia, but the vaccine available. Another important viral disease is viral or rabbit hemorrhagic disease, VHD, viral hemorrhagic disease. It's caused by calicivirus. Okay, so this transmission is either by direct from the feces, from the human, from the fomites, and the vector. Okay, Calici is not so difficult to diagnose as well in terms of clinical sign. Kan, kalau macam small animal, cats kan, Calici normally it cause FURD kan, feline one of the agent lah that cause FURD, feline upper respiratory disease. So you can see ada fever, ada nasal discharge, ada apa tu, conjunctivitis and so on. Okay. So diagnosis kalau postmortem normally it involve liver and spleen. Okay, all this liver and spleen. Again, this disease don't have specific treatment, and in the market normally this vaccine is a 2-in-1. It cover for VHD as well as myxoma virus. So it comes in 2-in-1. Okay, for rabbit. Kenapa this vaccine not available ataupun belum practice in Malaysia? The reason satu je, nobody belum bawa masuk. Nobody has an effort to bring in. Okay. In fact, it can be proposed by any vets to bring in this vaccine. In fact, we have a demand for vaccination in rabbit. But the thing is that to me, I still, macam mana cakap, not to say reluctant lah. We don't have a clear picture of this virus. As I mentioned, from the clinical sign, yes, we can say that perhaps this disease is present in Malaysia, in our rabbit, in our pet rabbit, but we don't have a clearly scientific evidence. Meaning that there's still a lot of opportunity to study on the prevalence of the disease in either in farm animals ke, in pet rabbits ke, so that at least we know the prevalence, so barulah kita boleh advise for vaccination, kan? Kalau tak, it's like macam my simple argument macam ni lah. For example, dogs in KL dan Selangor ni, do you can I say that we can is it compulsory to take a rabies vaccine dogs in KL and Selangor? To me tak perlu kan, sebab because rabies not prevalent in urban area like this, unless you are the dog, you stay in the Perlis ke Kelantan yang nearby Thailand, yes, perhaps you can consider to get your rabies kan, dog for your dogs. So same thing lah, my argument macam tu lah. Tapi it's not no harm to bring in and to practice vaccine. Okay. Alright, non-infectious disease. Two common things. One is neoplasia and one is management-related disease. Uterine adenocarcinoma is the most common neoplasia of rabbits. Okay, if the normally if animal rabbit unspayed more than 5 years or even more than 3 years old, bila ada complaint of ada discharge from the vulva or upon the palpation of the abdomen ada firm structure, most likely memang is a uterine adenocarcinoma, most likely. Okay. So the signs include, of course, word fertility, smaller than normal liters, abortion, result fetus, followed by bloody vulval discharge. Okay. The diagnosis, actually for a rabbit, it's easily to palpate dia punya abdomen, easy to palpate. You can feel the multiple structure nodules in the area of the I would say that apa tu middle to caudal abdomen. And of course lah, if you want to confirm, you need to do ultrasound lah. Okay, not to confirm lah. I mean, to make it more definitive, you should do ultrasounds lah, ultrasound or radiograph. Okay, of course for confirmation, you do a histologic lah. Either you do FNA. Okay. So treatment, hysterectomy may be an effective treatment. Kita terus buat what we call, kita terus neuter dia lah, buang neuter. If female are to be kept to an old age, they may be spayed as a preventive measure. So one of the prevention is to do a spaying lah in female to reduce the chances to develop uterine adenocarcinoma. Then, well, we have seen other neoplastic disease, but this uterine adenocarcinoma are the most neoplasia that we found. Unless for small mammals, macam hedgehog, we found that SCC, squamous cell carcinoma is the most, I would say the most common lah. Skin SCC, oral SCC, okay, is the most common SCC lah. Alright, dental issue is also the common problems presented to us. Okay, as you're aware that rabbit teeth, they are continually grow throughout the life. Okay, every week they grow. To control this overgrown, of course through a normal, through a correct feeding and diet. Okay, so they have to depend on their own normal side to side grinding movement to keep the teeth worn down to a proper length. Okay, so make sure you must have a proper diet lah. Okay, that's why diet of the rabbit should be always hay. Okay, always hay should be 90%. Okay, not pellet, not carrot, not vegetables. Hay is the most should be at a high percentage, 90%. 90% should be hay. This is a normal incisor. Normal incisor should be in the occlusion punya position. It should be like this. The lower incisor should be laying down at the tip of the upper incisor. That's a normal occlusion. And then the cheek teeth pula supposed to be dia tak directly touch. Dia ada sikit gap, a little gap in the normal occlusion. Okay. So this is what happen if TM1 not completely occur, or having an issue of feeding problems, inappropriate feeding cause a overgrown of the incisor. Okay, so this you can see the level. So all this can lead to, definitely it will disrupt the mastication, will disrupt the appetite, everything, and worst scenario can cause, self injury to the animal, self injury. Okay, the cheek teeth also can cause overgrown like this. You can see the apa tu, kalau upper cheek teeth normally it will overgrown outward, can cause a sharpness of the edge of the apa tu, cheek teeth, what we call a buccal spur. Kalau lower cheek teeth dia akan grow inward, at the end, the sharpness of the edge of the cheek teeth, what we call lingual spur. So all these sharp teeth can cause injury, direct injury to the tongue. Kalau yang ini boleh cause injury to the cheek. Misalignment, all these are the common problems dental in rabbits. Okay, so bila dia ada toothache, it will eventually can cause many other issues lah. Okay, reduced appetite, epiphora, digestive disorders, all these signs. Okay, how to diagnose for dental problems? Kalau incisor tadi, it's not big deal because incisor we just can look by gross naked eye. Yeah, you can see whether the incisor overgrown or not. But the problem is the cheek teeth. Cheek teeth quite difficult. As I mentioned earlier in our slide, because oral cavity rabbit ni sangat kecil, sangat narrow. So you cannot do a gross examination just by open up the mouth, tak boleh. You must have some tools lah, like mouth gag, cheek dilator, or use the aid of otoscope. And then to a proper, okay, once you diagnose kan, tapi kalau by using this method, yes, you can say that animal having a dental issue, but you must have a very objective view of your diagnosis. So by that you need to do X-ray. X-ray is the best method to objectively to say whether what actually are problems. I mean, if an overgrown, how much it is overgrown. So you need to do just a plain X-ray. Okay, you just need a plain X-ray, one in lateral, either left or right, depend which teeth you suspect. Okay. So we use this Bihmer and Crossley radiographic anatomic reference lines. This is very useful method. Okay, you just need these three lines. First, you need to capture a plain lateral radiograph. Second, you need to do this line. So these three lines include number one, A. A is you just make an extend from the tip of the nasal bone to the occipital protuberance. This is line A. Okay, from the tip of the nasal bone to the occipital protuberance. Second, B lines runs parallel to the first, extending rostral end of the hard palate. Okay, extending from the end of hard palate to 1/3 of the height of the tympanic bulla. Okay, 1/3 of the height. Okay, 1/3 of the height of the tympanic bulla. So that's line B. Ataupun perhaps you don't have a very proper good lateral X-ray, dia akan lari kan. So the most important thing, the B ni, the first, the dekat hard palate tu must be correct lah. Masa you tarik tu, kalau you tak dapat the 1/3 of the height of the tympanum bulla because of the overlap, it's okay. Apa yang penting ialah you make sure that antara between the A and B should be parallel size. Okay. Line C simple, just highlight the cortex ataupun the mandibular cortex. Okay. So now we look number 1 A. Okay, tu dia, kita tengok B dululah. Okay, we look at B line. Any crown of the cheek teeth, any crown of the cheek teeth that over exceed this line is considered as overgrown. Okay, for example, upper cheek teeth ni, dia punya crown, kalau dia exceed line B kat bawah ni, so kita kata itu overgrown, and then kita from the X-ray kita boleh measure kan how millimeters dia grow. So that's guide us to trim nanti, to treat the. So same thing untuk lower cheek teeth, this line B upward is considered as overgrown. Itu B. Line A is to look for upper root cheek teeth overgrown. Upper root cheek teeth overgrown. So any root that exceed this line A is considered as upper root cheek teeth overgrown. C for lower cheek teeth root overgrown. If exceed this C, meaning that this lower cheek teeth root is considered overgrown. Okay. Okay, yang ni you can read on. For ventral or dorsal view pula, this line is normally we use to see in the case of misalignment of the teeth. Okay, tadi saya tunjuk ada satu picture yang gigi dia, the teeth tu dia misaligned. Okay, so this is useful to see whether it's supposed to be, when you do this line, it's supposed to be all the cheek teeth should be in this line. Okay, in this line. Okay. Kalau dia keluar sikit, so we can say that some of the cheek teeth tu dah misaligned lah. Okay, treatment kalau untuk crown overgrown, normally kita akan aim kita ialah we do a crown height reduction, ataupun in simple word, we just trim it. Yang tadi kita dah measure how long dia grown kan. So kita just trim until kita reach dia punya, itulah. Yang pertama. Yang kedua, kita restore balik dia punya normal occlusion. Make sure janganlah trim sampai pendek sampai dia tak yang penting dia boleh occlude balik dia punya dia punya maxilla and mandible in a normal occlusion. Tapi kalau root, different issue. Root overgrown, always we have to deal with extraction. There's no way of to trim the root kan, unless kalau we consider many factors, risk to sedate, to anesthetize, or a cost constraint of owner. So perhaps we don't want to proceed with extraction. So what we can do is to control lah. How to control? Mean that control the diet lah. Control the diet. You have to change the diet to make sure animal getting a hard food, which is the hay. Okay. If you keep continuing giving a soft food, pellet, sayur, so it will grow. It can cause further problems. So these are the tools that are required to do a dental procedure lah. Okay. Alright. In rodents, it's advisable if you want to do any oral procedure, it's advisable to get this. This is the tabletop mouth cap. Okay, sebab we are dealing with small mammals and then with a small narrow oral cavity, so we don't want any disturbance. For example, fingers of our staff, fingers of your assistant kan. nak pegang head. No, we don't want that. We just need this instrument, put animal, so that only us and the animal. We just work without any you know, any disturbance. Mouth guard to widen the teeth, as well as cheek dilator to widen the view. So for a trim, you can use what we call a dental burr. Okay, dental burr. So this is the one of the example of dia punya what we call the apa tu, dental burr lah, dia punya mata dia kan. Ini dia punya machine. Okay. Kalau for apa tu, kalau untuk apa tu, cheek teeth ataupun extraction, kita of course kita ada instrument for extraction lah. Cumanya extraction pun ada disadvantage jugalah. Okay, just for example kan, kalau let's say you buang satu atas upper cheek teeth, the first molar for example, you remove the first cheek teeth, but the issue is what can happen is that the lower one, the first will overgrown because no buffer here, kan. That's some of the advantage that we have seen lah. Okay, that's why quite tricky lah to deal with dental issue in rodents. Alright, nail overgrown. Nails of the rabbit very tough. Normally designed for, kalau wild rabbit kan, kita tak ada wild rabbit. Tapi kalau dia punya naturally, normally nail tu untuk burrowing lah. Okay. So hopping over the rock and hard surface. So all those can control naturally the growth of their nail. But in pet rabbits, dalam rumah, indoor, so they don't have that thing that naturally can apa tu, naturally control the nail growth. So they have to depend on the owner have to clip regularly. So it's a simple one. You can use any kind of clipper, nail clipper like human use also can be used. But the thing is that just to avoid to clip at the level of, we call it a quick or a flash shipping area of the nail. Itu saja. Okay, alright. Ulcerative pododermatitis also common in rabbit, sebab rabbit ni dia punya skin quite thin. Okay, quite thin. So bila ada predisposing factor, for example hard flooring surface, damp flooring, urine scalding, or large breed or weight, so they have a pressure kan dekat dia punya saw. So at the end it can cause a vascular necrosis. So this is a very painful condition because kat situ very thin skin, a lot of sensory there. Okay, eventually it can cause, in worst scenario, if not untreated, it can cause severe infection. Okay, severe infection. So more or less like kalau macam birds, pododermatitis kalau kita panggil kan, bird pun common pododermatitis. Biasanya kalau bird kita buat apa tu, ball bandage kat kaki dia kan. But in rabbit, yes, kita boleh buat tapi kita tak panggil ball bandage lah. Kita just make sure kita make a shoes, make a soft shoes lah untuk dia, supaya bila dia step on the floor tu tak sakit. Ataupun we just change the floor material lah, floor padding, pakai more softer punya padding material. Itulah at the end, eventually kalau untreated pododermatitis, it can lead to moist dermatitis or bacterial skin disease. Okay, worst scenario kalau involve Pseudomonas. Okay, we have faced one case with very severe Pseudomonas, severe and chronic Pseudomonas aeruginosa punya skin disease. So it very hard to treat this Pseudomonas, because Pseudomonas are widely known to be resistant to most of the antibiotic except gentamicin. Apa tu? Gentamicin dengan apa tu? Gentamicin lah. Like our experience here in our lab, bila kita culture, kalau dapat Pseudomonas, memang the only susceptible is only gentamicin. Okay. Alright, gut stasis. That's why I mentioned earlier tadi, kita kena check dia punya gut stasis, because of gut stasis also one of the common problem in rabbit because of low fiber diet. Sebab we aware that kebanyakan owner suka bagi pellet, because pellet it can cause rapid growth of the body kan. So memang kurang fiber, and then a lot of stresses lah, fear, pain and other things. So all this can lead to gut stasis. So what we do normally depends lah, depend on the source of why this gut stasis happen. It also can be due to foreign body lah. Foreign body can be due to dia punya hair sendiri, or we call trichobezoa, or dia chew foreign body. Because rabbit ni memang tak boleh ada plastic material, dia akan chew, dia akan swallow. Okay. So the aim of the treatment is to lubricate the gastric content, to make it the movement of the gut to lebih lancar. Okay, we can use any dissolved material. For example, we can use enzyme, for example bromelain. Okay, bromelain ni ada jual. Specific enzyme lah, commercial enzyme. Ataupun kalau tak ada, you can, because this enzyme is came from the apa tu, pineapple, so you can give a pineapple juice to the rabbit, because the enzyme ada dalam tu, especially dekat dia punya tengah tu, bukannya buah pineapple tu, yang dia punya apa kita panggil tu, yang at the center tu. You pernah kan, if you take pineapple, you rasa macam you punya lidah, your tongue feel numbness, something like that. Because of that enzyme actually, the bromelain. Lagi banyak you makan yang tengah tu, lagi banyak you rasa dia punya tongue numb. And then we give prokinetic to stimulate gastric emptying and GI motility. For example, we use a metoclopramide, bisopride. Okay. And worst scenario, kalau related to infection ataupun foreign body, we have to remove the source lah of problems. For example, we need to do a gastrotomy. Okay, fracture. Common in rabbit sebab satu itulah, last time I mentioned, rabbit ni dia ada thin bone, but at the same time dia ada strong muscular contraction. So it has a very strong kick. So these two combination can cause a fracture kalau inappropriate handling. Right? Okay, untuk rabbit, memang we don't have to treat fracture, we avoid using any screw and plating, because it can cause further damage to the bone, because the bone quite fragile. So we only opt for non-invasive lah, like apa tu, just a pin or IM pin or wire, or just a bandage, or what we call external coaptation. Urolith also common in rabbit, and it related to the management, especially the diet. Okay, the diet. Well, most of the diet of rabbit contain high calcium. Kan? Hay pun ada high calcium, pellet pun ada high calcium. Okay, and this calcium normally they eliminate through the renal system. Very high, they eliminate through around 60%. As compared to vertebrate, only 5%. Tapi kalau rabbit, they eliminate through their renal excretion 60%. So that's why normally kalau you tengok rabbit punya urine, biasanya akan cloudy. It's a cloudy urine, it's a normal. Cloudy, but it become abnormal kalau too frequent or the animal less intake of water or animal having dehydration. So all these things can cause, you know, sedimentation of this calcium in the bladder. Kalau dia continuously slow excretion, it can cause more sedimentation of this calcium. At the end, they can cause, first level, they cause a sludge, just a sludge. But at the end, bila chronic, it cause a stone. Okay. So abdominal pain ni banyaklah dia punya kesan, hanya apa, hunch posture, teeth grinding. And then kalau stone tu become really hard stone, memang you can see the sign of hematuria, dysuria. So again, you can do a palpation if the stone tu memang apa tu, memang markedly big in size lah. And for more confirmative, normally we use a plain radiograph lah, like this. From the plain radiograph, we can see the stone in the bladder. So this is what I call the sludge tadi. At the early stage, normally it goes like this. This also pun dah can cause bleeding lah. You can see the hematuria sign. Okay, it's like a sand. So just imagine this sand is descend along the urine tract. It can cause damage to the mucosal layer kan. And then you imagine lagi lah kalau stone yang dia punya surface tu quite rough, quite hard like this. So memang it can cause damage to the wall of the bladder as well as wall of the urinary tract. So in this case, definitely if you see from the X-ray, definitely there's no other way, only surgical management lah. We have to remove this stone and try to manage the diet lah properly. Okay, I think that's all for today. We still have time, 5 minutes, maybe. Oh, already 10. Maybe any quick question?
Doctor, I have two quick questions. First one is about dermatophytosis. Can we use Woods lamp to diagnose dermatophytosis?
Okay. Okay, whether we can use Woods lamp for dermatophytosis then? Okay. Still, yes, I would say that still can be done, but I have to check whether, if I'm mistaken, some are reported that dia tak fluoresce, dia tak react, dia tak produce a fluorescent. That's why I have to check whether this fungal kat rabbit ni fluoresce or not. But sometimes we use, yes, we can see the fluorescent, but in some cases we don't see. But when we did this KOH test, yes, positive. So that's why we need to check whether the number of the severity of lesion or the number of fungal will affect how the fluorescence react. But to answer, yes, it still can be used, part of the diagnosis.
Okay, thank you, doctor. And another question is for like parasitic like mite infestation, can we use like Advocate for the rabbit?
Advocate. Okay, what is the active ingredient of Advocate?
Imidacloprid, doctor.
Okay. Yes, we can use as long as they are acaricide. Okay, so far there's no reported data on side effect of using this Advocate. But yes, we did use Advocate. For example, normally we use for a small small mammals, small sizes. For example, guinea pigs, hamsters, apa tu, hedgehog, because we are worried of giving injection. We are worried of, although we calculate, even we calculate pun kita akan dapat very small amount, 0.00 something. So it hardly to give injection with the small amount. We need to dilute kan. So in order to prevent that, we can use this topical. And in fact, the calculated dose of the whatever lah, ivermectin ke, any acaricide, you still also can use that injectable to give topical. Macam you buat spot on, it still can be done. Okay. As you're aware that ivermectin actually also have side effect if you given to a young animal. That's why for young animal, we are worried of, side effect. So we, instead of giving injection, we give topical, like spot on. Okay, so dia intradermal spread. So to answer your question, yes, Advocate also can be used for to treat parasite in rabbit. It's not a problem.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Okay, so I think already 10 to, so it's okay. If you have any question, just text me or email to me. Okay, I will pass this slide because the slide quite big, so I will have to separate. I have to make it in PDF and I will give a separate videos. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, okay. For your test. So we confirm this Friday, right? At
Yes,
3.
doctor, this Friday. Yes.
At 3 to 4. So you have anything after 4? Because online sometimes, we have to give extra. Maybe 4:30, 3 to 4:30.
Yeah, doctor, we don't have anything
Is
at
it
all.
okay?
Yes, okay.
Okay, so this Friday, 3 to 4:30, through through WebEx. Okay, but I have some of you have some concern about whether the question have to be given through Google Meet or Google for Putra Blast. Let me figure out because I'm not really used to. I'm not very familiar with Putra Blast. We'll see how. I have to depend on what are the format given by Dr. Rafi, Dr. Ruben. If kalau essay or short note, perhaps not an issue lah. So that one we have to just project the question. Normally you have to write the answer in your words, something, kan, and then you pass to me the ni lah. Cuma yang kalau MCQs or all those lah yang mungkin perlu pakai Google Form ke macam mana. But I will let you know by. I try to. I have to wait for the question by the Dr. Nafi dengan Dr. Ruben dulu tengok macam mana. Okay. But will include first lecture, my intro, Dr. Ruben, Dr. Nafi, and also last lecture on immobilization. Itu saja.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Okay, alright. So thank you very much. See you this Friday. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Okay, Doctor.
Okay. Bye.